Good evening, everyone. I'm Jane Pointer. On this edition of AZ Illustrated Science, we talk about the importance of food. Not only are individuals eating better to get healthy, doctors are starting to pay attention to the role of food in healing.
I started doing the food that he told me, eating it the way he told me. No seizure.
But while doctors are increasingly thinking of food as medicine, not everyone has access to this relatively simple prescription for health. Tonight, we discuss both the healing powers of food and growing concerns with food security. But first, here's a look at today's top stories.
The town of Marana issued more single-family residence permits than any other local government in southern Arizona so far this year. Marana issued 474 permits between January and the end of July, according to Bright Future Real Estate Research. Marana officials say the town is on track to surpass the 526 permits it issued in 2012. Marana officials say the Dove Mountain and Tangerine Road areas are the busiest for single-family residence permits. Other numbers compiled by Bright Future Real Estate Research show the city of Tucson issued 142 permits, Sahuarita issued 169, and Oro Valley issued 97 so far this year. The French Gulch fire burning near Yarnell has now blackened more than 800 acres. According to the State Division of Forestry, crews have 5% containment on the blaze, but they expect full containment by the end of the week. The lightning-caused fire began Saturday night and is not threatening any structures at this point. And The Hill, a newspaper covering Capitol Hill, is out with its annual list of the 50 wealthiest members of the U.S. House and Senate. From Arizona's delegation, one representative, Trent Franks, makes the 2013 list. The Glendale area Republican is worth a little more than $11 million, according to the financial documents examined by The Hill. The two biggest assets for Representative Franks are stock in petroleum companies. And that's a look at tonight's headlines.
Most of us agree that a good meal is one of life's pleasures. But some doctors and their patients are discovering that food can do more than please the palate. They're finding that food can heal the body too. While naturopaths and others have long considered the role of food in health, allopathic practitioners are starting to take notice and even beginning to seek out information about nutrition and health. Gisela Tellis explores the world of physicians who are using food as medicine and tells the story of one woman who healed herself by eating well.
On a June night in 2008, Colleen Jahara climbed into bed and stumbled into a medical mystery.
I went to sleep and I woke out of my sleep at 2:15 in the morning, and that's when the seizure started. I felt like my throat was closing. Can't breathe, I can't breathe. I want to get to the phone. I made it 3 steps out of the bed, and I came to 90 minutes later. I was unconscious. That's when the seizure started in June of '08. And then I was having another one a week later, and that's when I decided, I think maybe you should go to a hospital, find out what's wrong with you. And there began my journey.
Jahara was in her early 40s with no known health problems, but the seizures continued. Despite countless tests and visits to specialists, no one could figure out what was causing them.
But the doctor said, I had all my colleagues check this. We cannot find any reason for your seizures. Nothing. Nothing.
A neurologist put Jahara on medication that kept the worst of her seizures at bay, but she still suffered smaller seizures that interfered just as significantly with her daily life. She was afraid to sleep for fear she would seize, and unable to drive or work outside her home. Between her medical bills, lost income, and unanswered questions, Jahara faced dwindling savings and mounting frustration. Then she met naturopathic physician Michael Usick.
Food as medicine is really the foundation of the way naturopathic doctors treat disease. So when she came to see me, I'm looking at the whole person. We go through a complete history, and there are various things that are going on besides these seizures. And one way that food was really critical for her is that there's a diet called a ketogenic diet. So, for example, Dr. Atkins' diet is a ketogenic diet. There's variations on that. but diets that produce ketones have significant anti-seizure activity. This is a case where diet has a very powerful effect on a very difficult kind of condition.
Jahara followed Yusic's recommendations and was stunned by their effect, she says.
I started doing the food that he told me, eating it the way he told me. No seizure. I met him in April. In May, no seizure. June, no seizure. July, no seizure. I'm like, ooh, this is really working.
Food freed Jahara from the seizures that had controlled her life for nearly 4 years. And she's not alone in finding healing through food. Whether they're changing whole diets, as Jahara did, or simply adding some superfoods to the menu, patients and doctors across the country are starting to look at food in a whole new way.
Our diet, our lifestyle, our environment play a very critical role in health and disease. And if you don't look at those things, you're missing a huge part of the picture.
But it isn't only naturopathic physicians who are turning to food to heal their patients. Conventional medical practitioners are discovering, or rediscovering, the concept of food as medicine, says Dr. Victoria Maizes, Executive Director of the Arizona Center for Integrative Medicine.
Well, you know, it comes from Hippocrates, the father of medicine, who said, "Let food be thy medicine." So it's really quite an old concept. I think what it means today is we are recognizing the enormous impact what we put in our body does to our health.
The connection between food and health seems like common sense, and it's been supported by hundreds of scientific studies. But it has been overlooked and poorly understood by the medical community for decades, Maizes says.
Sadly, there's not a lot of education about nutrition in conventional medicine. We know that, for example, in internal medicine, the residency review committee, 0 hours of required nutrition. In cardiology, you know, heart disease, leading cause of illness, we have such great evidence about the Mediterranean diet helping prevent recurrent heart attacks. It's better than the leading drug, which are the statin medicines. And yet cardiology, the review committee, 0 required hours of training in nutrition. That's scandalous. Hi, are you Emily?
Yes, I am.
Victoria
Hi.
Maizes.
Hi, nice to
I'd
meet
like to
you,
bring you in.
Bringing food back into the treatment picture requires a different approach for both doctors and patients, Maizes says.
For example, if someone comes for an integrative medicine assessment, we actually ask them to bring in a 24-hour recall of what they've eaten. And we look at what they eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We ask about their food preferences. We ask who prepares their meals. And then we give a lot of nutritional advice. When I'm interviewing a patient, I'm always listening for, is there some clue that would tell me that this person has a food intolerance, which is different from a food allergy? So bloating, constipation, reflux, fatigue even, skin rashes. These are subtle signs, but they are sometimes signs that a food is contributing to their sense of not feeling well.
Using food as medicine demands that doctors get to know their patients as individuals, instead of taking a one-diet-fits-all approach, Yusic says.
You have to work with everything about the patient, who they are, what they desire, what they're able to do. But the concept is always to get back to nature, get back to whole foods, get back to a simpler way of eating and living.
Maizes says interest in healing through food is surging among physicians, who in some cases are changing their lives as well as their practices.
So let me give you an example of one of the physicians who studied with us. She described herself as a family doctor from Ohio, in practice for 30 years. And she found herself on 3 prescription medicines, just like her patients, one for diabetes, one for high blood pressure, one for high cholesterol. And she was about to be put on her 4th medication when she stopped in her tracks and she said, "What's going on here? I exercise regularly. I think I eat a healthy diet, but there has to be something wrong." And so she began to investigate, and she changed her diet dramatically, ended up coming and doing her fellowship in integrative medicine. But now she's on no medications, and what she says to her patients is, "I can give you a prescription, or I could teach you to heal yourself."
Having learned to heal herself, Colleen Jahara has set out to help others find their way to wellness.
What was nice was, I'm up at La Encantada one time at a fair. 6 months later, they had the fair again. The woman approaches me. She said, "I was so hoping you would come here today, Colleen." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Don't you remember I talked to you 6 months ago, told you my mom's really ill, what can happen? You sent her to the doctor." Well, she went and she feels so much better. That doctor is fantastic. I said, great, because I feel great too. So I want to pass it on. I want to make the whole world healthy.
Egypt ramped up its crackdown on the Muslim Brotherhood today, arresting its spiritual leader, Mohammed Badieh.
Saudi Arabia steps in to bankroll Egypt's government as the U.S. and others ponder cutting military assistance. We explore the changing landscape of aid and influence.
Then a big bet on Sirius TV News. Al Jazeera America launches today amid a fiercely competitive cable landscape. The prospects and challenges ahead.
The Supreme Court's rulings on same-sex marriage sent reverberations across the country. Ray Suarez examines how states are grappling with the landmark decisions.
It may be August, but at the White House today, football was in the air, 40 years late.
And health officials say 300,000 Americans contract Lyme disease each year, 10 times more than previously thought. We explore what's behind the latest numbers.
That's all ahead on tonight's News Hour.
With crop prices high, it's a great time to be a farmer. Not so great if you want to be a farmer.
The cost of land is unreal. I think the only way that somebody can get into it is if a ranch was handed down to them, unless they're, millionaires to begin with.
I'm Renee Montaigne. Hard times for future farmers and ranchers on the next morning edition from NPR News.
In 1996, the United Nations World Food Summit defined food security as all people at all times having access to sufficient, safe, nutritious food to maintain a healthy and active life. Food security usually connotes both access to and the ability to buy the appropriate food. That means items that can meet dietary needs and cultural preferences. Often, when we think about food security, we think about countries around the world where malnutrition comes from lack of food. But it is also possible to have incredible access to food, but still be malnourished or overnourished. To discuss what food security means and why it matters here in Arizona are Shane Burgess, Dean of the University of Arizona College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, Leona Davis, Education and Advocacy Coordinator for the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona, and Dr. Eric Lyons, an Assistant Professor in the University of Arizona School of Plant Sciences. Well, thank you so very much to you all for coming today. When I think about food security, I think most of us think about that as somewhere other than here. Oh no, surely we're secure in our food here in the US, but maybe not so much?
Certainly when we talk about food insecurity, we're not just talking about the global context, but also here in the U.S. and especially here in Southern Arizona and Pima County. We've seen here at the Community Food Bank our client numbers double in the last 6 years, and that rate of increase pretty much exactly parallels the rise of unemployment in Southern Arizona. So as we all know, we've been in a tough economic times in recent years, and food insecurity, the lack of access to sufficient healthy food is absolutely one and the same as being impoverished.
And in that context, we're talking about people being able to buy food in the store or something. We're not necessarily talking about our local agricultural systems, or are you talking about that as well?
It's absolutely both. It's access to food at the grocery store and the ability for a region to produce food. So again, here in Southern Arizona, we do have local and regional agriculture, and we've seen a rise in urban agriculture and regional agriculture, small farms, just in recent years because of a new awareness of food security issues.
Eric, so one of the things that you're involved in is a program called iPlant. So tell us a little about that.
Yes, so the iPlant Collaborative is a large national investment in building cyber infrastructure for, at first, the plant science community, and now more generally, non-medically related life science community. And so when we talk about big data, lots of data, sharing data, dealing with maybe the entire life cycle of data, we need a lot of infrastructure to help make that happen. And what that's known as is cyber infrastructure. So this includes all of the computer resources, data storage, data management, and really important to the entire process, knowledge on how to use all of these systems. So what we've seen happen on an individual basis is a lot of us have become a lot more connected in terms of all having, or majority of people having a lot of access to the internet, either from our home computers or at a library or from a cell phone. And now what we want to do is make sure that that same kind of technology is helping us deliver global solutions to global problems, such as food security across the entire world.
In terms of cell phones and the different kinds of infrastructure, I mean, are cell phones actually part of this infrastructure that's going to provide data? I mean, I know that farmers already are using them, for instance, in India.
Yes, and I would have to say, so one of the programs that iPlant is involved with is a collaboration with the Gates Foundation, specifically with what's known as the Generation Challenge. And one of the projects they're developing is known as the Integrative Breeding Platform, which is basically an entire system that helps local farmers connect their data with those that are happening at agricultural research centers around the world to basic research scientists that are trying to improve germplasm or determining what kinds of seeds are going to do well in a particular kind of environment. And so when we go to a lot of developing nations, having good cyber infrastructure may not be there in terms of having landlines going to everyone's personal residence. But everyone now, or a very vast majority of people, have cell phones. And what this does is gives you the same degree of access in terms of accessibility, but maybe not necessarily in terms of being able to move a huge amount of data. So what's important about having these devices is it lets people go out there, record things, digitally capture it, and then be able to add that to a global pool of information that can be mined in the future for determining what's going to work best in different local environments.
Leona, how do you see this all impacting locally here?
Well, it's very exciting to see the international conversation around food security, because certainly international and national policy has a large effect on our region's food security here. However, it's also good to take into account our specific uniquities of our region, which we are in a border region of the United States, which means we actually have, for instance, challenges like lower household incomes, but also specific unique benefits like Nogales being one of the largest ports of entry of produce into the United States.
And what do you guys all think about how your work impacts locally here?
Well, I think, again, it's a big interconnected web, and so you talked about cell phones. So cell phones can not only be used to analyze data, work out what kinds of seeds, but also work out where the market's going. Where can we best get, where can we best sell our products to gain the most value for our families? How can we work in the labour markets? And these things are all very important to us locally. But also, how can we best identify labour sources in Arizona, which is going to, or where the jobs may be for local movement of people.
And the university, sorry, you were going to say something.
I really like that idea of being able to sort of interconnect a lot of the technologies or software systems we might be developing in developing countries, and then being able to apply them to these new kinds of ideas here. For example, local label markets, which I think are something that is a concern to a lot of farmers. And one of the things that you were mentioning is in terms of being able to connect to the local community, again, it would be great to be able to empower school children, kids, with these kinds of technology, because a lot of them are running around with cell phones. So there are these interesting tangential projects where people are becoming much more engaged in what we call citizen science. So being able to go out there and maybe catalog the natural diversity in terms of what's out there. But you can imagine moving that same technology to documenting, where does my food come from? So one of the questions I wanted to ask was, in terms of being able to do things on a local scale, how much more can we do to engage our neighborhood in terms of asking them that question of, where does my food come from?
Yeah, well, that's a really fascinating idea, both using the citizen science to really build up, support our local food system on a citizen scale. And so one of the things that makes us unique at the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona is that we do recognize food security is not an isolated issue. Hunger is not an isolated issue. It is intricately tied to the economy, to the local environment, to our community health, and even our relationships within a community. So food really touches every aspect of our lives. However, just a few things that the average person, doesn't matter what you do, how much money you make, could do to support our local food system. First, support the local economy, both buying local food, supporting local farmers, and non-food products as well, because that money that stays in the economy means creating and maintaining jobs, which means a lower rate of food insecurity. Secondly, environmental stewardship, and that can be as basic of home practices as energy and water conservation in the home. Healthy land is the building block of healthy food. And we have to remember as a region that the health of our land is absolutely the ability for us to have food security as a region. And then finally, meet your neighbors, which seems like maybe not related to something like food security, but it absolutely is. There's ample evidence that having relationships and strong social connections within a community means that, for example, say you meet a neighbor who is practicing urban agriculture, has a veggie garden and chickens, and might have a little extra to spare, and then you meet another elderly neighbor who hasn't identified themselves as food insecure for, say, social services or government services, but they're a shut-in and they absolutely are, and you're able to make those neighborhood scale connections, which means we're addressing food security in a much more efficient and effective way than even larger programs are able to do.
So I was going to say, I think that's a really good example of what this is really all about fundamentally, and that's the transparency and access to data. And with transparency and access, you get much better communication, much greater links, much greater strengths in networks, whether they're community networks or worldwide networks. They just become part of the same continuum, part of the same scale. And of course, you drive innovation and entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
And at the University of Arizona, we've heard about the iPlant Collaborative that hasn't sprung from the university, I don't think, but at least is very involved in it. Oh, it did spring from the university.
The headquarters of the project is here in the University of Arizona.
Well, I'm so glad you set me straight. Sorry about that. I tried to give that to somebody else.
It was absolutely designed and developed in the college. Sure.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, so what else are you guys doing in this area?
Everything in the entire continuum of how we feed and fuel society in the future. Everything, including things such as how we'll sell products in the future, how they impact our families' welfare, our families' health, how we work in local economies and in global economies, the kinds of plants we're going to grow, how we manage natural resources. That's what the college is all about.
So if we look into the future, presumably we're going to see some changes in the way our food is distributed and all of that. What do you see in the future?
Well, one of the things locally, but it also applies on the national and international scale, is conservation of resources. So we have some very innovative farmers in southern Arizona who are working on water conservation as one of their main goals in their farming practices, for example.
And I would just sort of say to dovetail on that, one of the big things that I've been very impressed by at the University of Arizona and in conjunction with local farmers is how progressive they are in terms of adopting new kinds of technology in order to make better decisions about their farming practices. So in terms of this intersection of having a lot of data, big data and open data, it's the ability for people and farmers, for example, to be able to go out there and monitor everything there is about their field, so they can be getting satellite information. They can have a tractor that has a bunch of remote sensing technology on it, from being able to do GPS to understanding soil compositions in terms of what needs fertilizer, what has enough water, but also be able to use advanced technologies like LiDAR to be able to use lasers to scan for foliage to see what's growing, how fast it's growing, is there herbivory damage. And those kinds of research projects happen as a broad collaborative here in southern Arizona between the University of Arizona. We have a couple of USDA facilities in Maricopa, some here locally, as well as with all the farmers. And you probably can speak about this more than I can, the Extension Ag Center in Yuma as well, so that these are all working together.
So every state, many people don't know this, every state has something called the Cooperative Extension System. And there are many components to that, but the bottom line is we have a presence through the university, through Cooperative Extension, Arizona Cooperative Extension, in every single county. And these range from everything from people doing ag and natural resources, growing plants, teaching people how to harvest, identifying new equipment so we have better food safety, right through to helping families, the same kinds of families that Leona works with, helping their families with nutrition for their kids. And making sure there are some kids in Arizona that don't eat between Friday and Monday. It's a big deal for us in the college. I think it's a big deal for Arizona. If you're not eating between Friday and Monday, it makes it pretty hard to learn on Monday.
Yeah, no kidding.
So these are the kinds of things that we care about deeply. That's what drives all of our faculty. We have 1,600 employees in the college, and they all care about this, and they could all have a conversation about this with you. But as I said, our dissemination arm is Arizona Cooperative Extension. Again, most people haven't heard of this. Leona, of course, had heard of these folks and has probably worked with some of them, I guess.
Absolutely, we partner with Cooperative Extension.
Yeah. And so that's a big deal. I think, imagine a system if everyone's got a handheld technology. One of the problems we have with food security is it's not just availability and access, but it's nutritional content. Are we eating the right things that are good for us? Because, if we're not, then we're not going to really take advantage of what it means to be human. Our ability to use our brains to the full extent and solve our problems and solve these big issues that we face. And if we have proper nutrition, we can use our brains better. And that's a great thing for everybody.
And to follow up a little bit on what you're saying, which I think comes back to the research that happens here at the University of Arizona, is this idea of being incredibly collaborative across boundaries between this College of Agricultural and Life Sciences to information technology systems to arts and sciences, and important to that, of course, are computer science. And so one of the things that's been very productive to see happen here is how easy it is to basically be able to coordinate a bunch of different kinds of basic research technologies and be able to move these and collaborate immediately with people that are applying these to real world problems out in the field. Very unique situation.
What's also exciting about that level of collaboration is then you get into the scale where you might be able to affect the policy level. We do have a food council in Pima County, and they part of what they do is work on policy. If we get into where we're using this technology, both from a citizen science and what you were talking about, using LiDAR and things like that to look at broader agricultural scale, that might be able to inform policymakers to then make decisions based on rewarding, say, good conservation practices or other strategies for the future.
Well, we have to leave it there, I'm afraid. But thank you so much to all three of you for coming in and talking with us about this today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's our show. To post a comment on any of these stories or to keep up with the latest news, go online to our website at azpm.org. I'm Jane Pointer. Thanks for watching.